You're listening to QCast, presented by Qcella Media. Please consider giving generously to Qcella's nonprofit mission. To find out more about our mission and to make a donation, visit our website at qcast.qcella.org. Your tax-deductible donation will help us continue bringing you quality podcasts just like this one.
I may be bruised, but I'm not broken. You can't take away my soul. You tried to tell me I don't count, but I know in my heart that's not true. So you cannot take me down that path. I'll make it without you. I may be bruised, but I'm not broken. My life counts for something, and you wake up and I'll be gone. You'll know that you were wrong.
Welcome to my show, Shades of Gender. I'm your host, Terry Ryan. Thank you for listening. We'll be talking about gender identity, including transgender, cross-dressers, and non-binary gender individuals who self-identify with these groups. The definitions of these individuals are often misused and certainly misunderstood. Our goal is to identify these groups, listen to their stories, and their journey in life to get a better understanding of who they are and how they're doing in society. In spite of how the media may characterize and what others may select as their definitions of what these labels represent, our goal is to get to know the real people behind these definitions. So today I'm very happy to have DonnaKelli, who I've known for 3 years, and someone that I just really met through a mutual friend, and we got on the phone one night and we just talked for hours and hours. And every time we talk for hours and hours. So we save a lot of time when we talk. So today we only have about 30 minutes, but we're gonna get to know DonnaKelli, and I really am very, very happy that you're here. So welcome. Welcome
Thank you.
to the show. Thanks, Donna.
Thank you for inviting me.
Oh, would miss it. So, I just want to start with, somewhere I like to start with on our show is because I am really hung up on, I don't like labels, and I don't think the labels are really any of the labels now. Cross-dresser, I think cross-dressing is more of a activity. It's an adjective more than a noun, but I don't have a better name for it. Transgender, I think transgender is... it's just you're not transgender unless you've had reassignment surgery for some people. And people don't understand, and this is why we're doing the show, is to bring the population, the people, the communities that are on the spectrum to life. We're real people with, real successes, and we're just not identified by our gender. It's like me saying I'm a woman, and that's it. So
yes, exactly.
There's more to it.
Yes.
So, good morning, I'm a woman, and okay, what else are you? So I really, resent the fact when people say, oh, I'm transgender, I'm a transgender woman. Okay, well, now what else are you? So, I like to start with yourself. I mean, I talk about not liking labels, but I think for our audience, I like to at least kind of framework because they can't see you. They are just meeting you for the first time. So where do you identify on the gender scale?
That's a great question. I'm transgender. And for me, the term transgender, years ago, and we're going back to maybe the 70s and 80s, when cross-dresser was the only term we really had. We didn't have the internet. We didn't have information. So I probably would have referred to myself as a cross-dresser. But I accepted that inside I was a woman, and that grew. Sex and gender have always been two separate things for me. This has never been about sex or sexual anything regarding it. It's always been about my gender. And my gender, people would ask me, when you dress, why is it so easy for you to be female, to act female? And my comment was, I'm not acting. All I did was flip the switch off for being male. It's inside of me, and I think at a young age. I think you know this. My first time I went out completely dressed, I was 16. And I realized that I was a woman. And I think the reality, realizing from within ourselves, a lot of people try to convince themselves about a lot of things, about who they are. And I just believe that I accepted this early on in life, and I grew from there.
So when you say you started dressing the first time out as a woman, or the opposite of, which your sex was, which is a male.
Yes.
Did you start dressing earlier in privacy of your own home? I mean, usually it doesn't just happen at 16.
Yeah, probably about 5 years old.
Right.
But back then, when you're 5, you really don't understand about, sex, boys, girls. You just know you like something. And I knew that I liked, my mom's, my sister's clothes better than mine, and I wanted to play with them. As I got older, I realized those things should be hands off, because somebody will come and tell you that's wrong, because, again, the time frame, the 80s that you were talking about, people looked at us far differently. If you said, being a young man, you walked up and said, I think I'd like to be a woman. Well, you'd immediately be whisked off to a psychiatrist. You would be something wrong with you. Let's fix it. And there's nothing to really fix. The thing that I think we've come to realize is we need to shake hands with that person inside of ourselves and see where they grow, and go. Because a lot of people on this gender spectrum are different. They're different than me, and each other. We know. I mean, I have hundreds of friends who are transgender or cross-dresser, or they do drag shows, but there's a difference in all of us.
Which is why the show is so important.
Exactly.
And why being able to talk through some of the current labels and the spectrum within these labels, at least if we can get the spectrum within those labels, that it's not one size fits all, which leads me back to what I have found when I was working on my documentary back in 2013 on cross-dressing, that of course it led me to the spectrum, because as I talked to cross-dressers, and even one was bisexual, so we know sex was different than the gender, and the other one was certainly self-identified as being a girl when he was young, and really then so they're all different, and it really was for me an eye-opener to be able to meet with these individuals who certainly on the gender scale were coming from all different walks of life. But one thing that was very common for each one of these people, and I would say I spoke with maybe thousands of people worldwide that were, under that cross-dresser label. They started dressing when they were 5 or 6 years old, it was all, I can tell you that there was only one person that did it at 30. And that was really, I didn't believe, and actually has since transitioned. And I feel kind of sorry for her, because I think she gave away the wife, the kids, everyone so late. And I think I just don't know. I mean, 1 out of thousands that all said that they were self-identifying with the clothing, which was, the natural thing to self-identify with. Some were doing it with dolls, wanted to play with dolls, or some things that were considered girl toys early on. So my question to you, DonnaKelli, is were you attracted to, besides the clothing, were you attracted to some of the female type of stereotype of things that were offered back then for little girls?
Oh, yeah. It wasn't ever just about dressing. What was confusing, and it's all confusing then, because it's a secret. You can't ask anyone. You have to do secret documents, find things in the library, try and do your own research.
And did you do that when you were, as you got older? So
I did.
As you started feeling like you weren't just a child, because, you're right, a child plays with things. And then
because I discovered the Harry Benjamin system, where And this is one of the other reasons I get asked frequently by girls, well, why was passing so important? Back then, it was everything. If you couldn't pass, if you couldn't go out into public and be kind of accepted as a woman, then they weren't going to do your surgery. And I was en route to wanting the surgery, I thought.
And what age were you at that point?
Probably in my 20s. At 16, I cross-dressed, went out, and everybody accepted me. I went into a little drugstore and bought some hosiery and stuff, and nobody said boo to me.
So let me back up here a little bit. So as you said, so you were really on track as you got older to become the woman or the girl that you thought you were.
I thought that was where I was going.
So let's stop then. Okay, this is back, in the 70s, probably? Mid-70s?
70s, yeah.
Mid-70s, late 70s. What happened to you that stopped that path? And then we'll talk a little bit about where you grew up and professionally what you did. But what happened?
I realized, and there's nobody you can ask about your own sexuality. As I mentioned, this was never sexual for me. I realized I liked women. I was a boy, and I liked girls. And I'd be all dressed, and I'd look like this girl, but I didn't want to go out with a boy. And back then, of course, we go into the L of the LGBTQ, lesbian. Oh, well, you can't be a lesbian because if you're a girl, then you're a lesbian. So I was more confusion, more wondering what I'm supposed to do. So I thought, okay, I can't do this. I can't have a surgical change because I don't want to be with a girl. I don't want to be with a boy. I want to be with a girl. So more confusion. I ultimately sorted that out probably over a span of another 6 or 7 or 8 years and realized it's okay to be who you are. It's okay to be, this. But still, during that time frame, maybe I'm pushing into my 30th birthday, still during that time frame, that was not an acceptable thing, except to me inside, and I knew there were others out there like me.
By this point, there were more coming on to the scene where you could identify or at least read about and know that you weren't alone. I mean, I interviewed someone that a couple shows ago that said, when she's 65, and she said when she was 3 or 4, and she said, I'm a little girl. Why is everyone treating me like a little boy?
Yes.
And they kept beating her up because she kept coming out saying I'm a little girl. And she said, I felt like a Martian. There wasn't anyone to even read. I couldn't even read about it. Renee Richards came out, and that was like, the only person.
I think I know who that was you're talking about.
You do know.
Yeah, I do know her. Yeah.
So, I mean, I thought it was quite something because I had a young transgender girl on who's 18, Cole, and on one of my shows, and what I saw was such a difference in the transgender world between an 18-year-old and growing up now as a transgender and back, anyone who's certainly probably over 40, and then certainly over 50. How I say easy. It's never easy to to really become your authentic self. I would say for anyone in life, but certainly if you're changing, what you were born with and doing your reassignment, that's not an easy process for anyone, and it's a finality that you better be sure about. But it's so much more. The conversation's there, so she's able to talk, get the internet, get feedback, have role models. You're leading with people that have come before her over the past, certainly the 10 years to be able to come out. So here you are having to make a decision. This is my understanding, Donna, between whether you're going to be able to, have an active relationship with a woman that was straight because you felt that you were attracted to a woman, and so you pushed away your true self to, or at least lived within yourself and didn't outwardly live as a woman, I guess.
The only way it would have worked. I mean, I had girlfriends from the time I was in my teens, and
Well, you've always been nice looking, either in male or female form. I mean, you're just a nice looking person. So I'm sure you're smart, and and speaking of
Thank
that,
you.
what did you do for a living during this time?
How far back do you want me to go?
Well,
I
and
was
then
in the
you're-
Army. We know that. I served during the war.
Mm-hmm. What
I
war was
enlisted
this?
Vietnam. I enlisted. I wasn't drafted. I had a high draft number, and I found myself going with a couple of friends who were going to be drafted, and somehow I raised my right hand at the same time.
Wow. So I didn't know that. Where were you, and how long were you in Vietnam? Were you on the front line?
About 10 months. But then I served most of a 2-year, and then I did 4 years inactive. And that changed my profession, where I was going, because I had graduated high school, had a girlfriend who I was going to marry. While I was away, of course, she found somebody else, and I came home and found myself alone again. So I went back to college, because I'd been in college all this time. And I changed my major to police science and administration of justice, and got my degree in administration of justice, and pursued a career in, of all things, law enforcement, because I was good at military life. I was good at what I did, and I thought, well, this might be something for me. Now, many people listening to this right now are saying, oh, she did that to overcome this urge of wanting to be a woman. That's not true. Because when I look back on my career, everything I did, I wanted to do as a woman. We just didn't have that many female police officers then. I mean, I was asked, I told somebody this week who didn't know, and they said, oh, so what did you do before? I said, well, I was a police detective, Oh my God. And back then they didn't have that many female. I said, yeah, I was one of the first. She had no idea.
Right.
But but that was my career. That's where it went, from college to there.
What you bring up again, too, on the stereotypes is, again, my experience has been, and you reconfirmed this, is that a lot of the transgender women that I've spoken to, and cross-dressers both, are in male-dominated fields, industries. I mean, they're not here necessarily. They could be a hairdresser, but I have to tell you, I've met a lot more construction, security, military. I mean, they're as good with a gun as they are with their stiletto. I mean, I wouldn't want to see them in the dark alley.
Yes, I have.
You're a black belt, aren't you?
I'm a third-degree black belt in Taekwondo. I earned every bit of that through a Korean master who was very demanding.
I'm sure that's quite an accomplishment.
When you mentioned construction, I have a friend who is transgender who had her male company, and now she's leading it as a female, and very, very successfully, I might add.
Right.
So.
Well, again, this is case in point. We're not just a girl. We're not just a woman. We're not just a transgender girl. We're people.
Yes.
Right, and we're people with minds, with taste. So if anything I get out of this and on the show and it going down in history, and when I'm long and gone, I hope that I've made a difference in at least bringing people on that to get to know the people behind the label, because it's just a silly little label in many ways. So
I really, all of the labels, they confuse us. Mm-hmm. Quite frankly,
within
some of the
community,
girls,
right?
Some of the girls in the community, they go, well, some girls say I fit here, some girls say I fit there. All I can say about calling myself transgender now is my gender is female. I've been assessed twice by professionals who would sign on the dotted line for me to have reassignment surgery. I've chosen not to have a final surgery, and my decision was just because of my wife. My wife. I couldn't have a better partner. I couldn't have a more understanding partner. She would go all the way through it with me if I chose, but I'm as happy as a girl could be right now.
Right.
And I don't want to do anything to mess that up.
So back to that, why don't you back up a bit and tell us about your relationship? I know this.
Okay.
You've been married for how long with Linnea?
I've known my wife since middle school. And we were not best buddies. She was a friend of my sister and the family, and of course somebody I grew up with. So we've known each other most of our lives, which when we're around people, they go, "My God, you guys have been married forever." Well, we didn't get married early in life. We got married late in life. We have kids, grandkids, and she is my rock, my guiding light. I mean, frankly, she knew I was coming here to do the show tonight, and she says, "Go." I would say break a leg, but you're not going to be on TV, so just be nice to Terry on the mic. So
you tell her I said hi. By the way, for the audience, I have met DonnaKelli's wife, and they're just absolutely wonderful together. I hope to have her on the show someday. I really would like to have her on. She's not as social as you are, and
she mentioned that a couple of times when we're out. We do go out together as sisters. We're
so tell me about that. So when you're out, just do you I notice you don't say husband or wife and wife or marriage partners. Is it easier just to say your sisters rather than have to explain to a waiter why?
It is easier, but that definition has been provided to us most of the time because she does resemble me and I resemble her, and we're the same size, so it cuts down on clothing costs because we share closets, double the wardrobe, and the shoes, everything. We're the same size, so we get a lot of times when we go places, we go to the same nail salon. We've gone for years, and they know us, and they know us as sisters.
Well, you had. So I know Linnea was your second wife.
Yes.
Okay. So you have kids from your first wife?
Yes.
And how is that relationship today, and how is it with your children?
My relationship with my children it's fabulous. I that's why I said a moment ago I couldn't be happier about the way things have gone. And I hear from girls all the time on the internet and through my pages and that are not as fortunate. But my children, I raised them along with a wife who understood that we need to accept people for who they are. I remember eldest daughter graduating from high school comes to the house and says, "Okay, we're having this graduation party. Are you going to get out of here? It's Dad, And I said, "Yeah, I'll get out of here." And she goes, "Now, when they get here, don't make fun of, some of my friends are not quite like I am." And I said, "You mean you've invited some gay friends?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "You know how I am." I said, "I accept everybody." She says, "I know, but it's just," I said, "I know, I'm older and you're a kid, but I always raised them to be," she was captain of the cheerleaders, and she was friends with everybody. She did not.
Sounds like she took after you.
Huh?
It sounds like she takes after you.
Thank you. I'll take that
Honestly,
as a huge compliment.
No, she does, because you're so social, and she just sounds open and social, and
she's very social.
When are they close? How many kids do you have?
4.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. And are they within, when you say, do you get to see them? Are they close by?
Oh,
or
yeah.
Close to you?
Yeah. We've stayed in California, moreover. The only reason we've stayed is because of our children, and that if they moved, then there would be no real reason to stick around. We could go somewhere else.
Well, that is something that is always been, I think, a issue for so many of the population, the communities, to come out and tell their children. I had one of my friends who's transgender said that, she came out to her kids, and this is one who's a firearms instructor and construction worker, and said, "I finally had to really come out to the children." Actually told her wife, because when when she started to realize that she really wanted to continue to really live her life as a woman, but told her wife early on, before they got married, that, "I don't know if you want to marry me. I love you, but I have to tell you that I'm on a journey, and I am cross-dressing, and I don't know where this is going to lead." And her wife said, I love you and let's go with it. Well, 25 years later, 2 kids, it's now becoming where it's gone from cross-dressing and it's evolved now to really doing hormones and very similar in the sense of even said to her wife, I really, I'm if you want to get divorced, please go on if you need to. I love you, but I have to do this for myself. And she's staying with him. She said, well, now I can't get rid of her, so I guess we're going to stay together. I mean, it was very touching, and it reminds me a little bit about your relationship. Yeah, you know what I mean? It's like, I don't care what you are, you're staying with me.
I was sitting here with deja vu going, is she talking about me?
Right.
Yeah, I've always dealt, and this is something I always recommend to the girls who ask. They go, how did you ever get such a good relationship with a woman, with your wife? And I've never married someone who didn't know. I have 2 wives, one ex and the one I've been married to now, who I've known forever. And one of the hardest things I did in my life was telling her, because I was in love with her. I wanted to marry this woman, and I thought, I'm going to have to tell her. And I told her, after I told her, and I realized, I mean, my wife, you realize, she's a highly educated woman. All she did was start asking a boatload of questions. And I thought, wait a minute, she didn't run for the fence. She's going to listen. And she just started asking questions, and I explained to her after she was having some acceptance and going, no, I get it. That was harder than if you had just told me to go walk across a minefield, because, at that point you're thinking, well, I'm going to be alone the rest of my life because nobody's going to accept me for. That's why I say I hit the lottery with.
Well, you bring up something that, and you did, you hit the lottery, but I think that the honesty in any relationship is something that I also found when I spoke with some of the wives of cross-dressers and trans women that were just angry that they were never leveled with at the beginning, because no one wants to be in a relationship and then wake up with someone else. And I call it the third, the second woman in the relationship.
Yes.
I said it's a menage a trois, but I said one day you wake up and you're like, whoa, where did this woman come from?
Where did this?
Yeah. I mean, so they, people are, the courage, and I guess you really are a great role model, and people like yourself that are being true to yourself and also being true to your partner, to be able to tell them up front and take the risk that they may not be there, and your success story, which is so important.
Quite literally, when I'm asked that, and I got asked every time I go to any kind of an event. I only go to a few each year, but a lot of the girls who know me online, meet me and they'll go, "Oh, I know who you are," and they'll ask. And I always just tell them, the key is tell your wife everything. I mean, I don't know how many times I've had people come up and say, oh, yeah, my wife thinks I'm off golfing for the weekend. Oh, no, I haven't told her, but we have a great relationship. Well, what did I just say? If you're hiding a big part of who you are from your partner, I don't care if it's your wife, your spouse, then how good is your relationship? Because women, and maybe that's why I'm relating with women here now, my female side, because I wouldn't like to be lied to.
That's right.
The lying.
The lying is really almost a bigger issue.
I literally
than the actual, because if truly, and maybe I'm just open-minded. Again, I don't know. I wasn't told in my first marriage. I was just, as I told you earlier, he would just say, hey, I'm going to go upstairs. Can I put my clothes on? And, I'd say, well, again? How many times are we going to see this woman in this house? I thought it was you and I, and now you brought your woman with. So, before we run out of time, I do want to ask you, about what you're doing now. It's kind of exciting. You've been you hit Hollywood on us now, and
I'm never gonna have a swelled head. I'm always gonna be your buddy.
Well, so what are you doing? You are doing some acting.
I am
commercials.
I've been. I guess in the old days they'd say I was discovered, but I don't think that's true because the people in the community who know me discovered me 30 years ago. But I got asked to do an audition, and I thought it was a come on. I thought, this is not true. This is going to be some guy because I get proposed to online. You know how the things. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I checked it out, and it was legitimate, and it was a true casting company in West LA, so I went for the audition, did pretty well, got called back. They're doing a movie that I'm up for. May or may not get that, but what that spawned was the interview was supposed to be the audition 5 minutes, and I ended up there for over an hour. They wanted to do video, intake video, all kinds of things.
It's
sizing,
Hollywood, right.
Sizing for wardrobe, all kinds. And I said, what's this for? And she says, well, it'll go to, is it okay if we, get all this information? Sure. All of a sudden, I started getting emails and things from casting companies. And a nice lady in Anaheim, I won't mention her name, I guess. I don't know if I should on here. But anyway, she wrote me about a 4-page email about how to do this, how to do that. I saw all of your intake. You should work. No, don't just do transgender things. You should work as a female. She says your posture, your everything on camera. So I thought about it and I put myself out there, and I've been getting a lot of things. I did a walk-on a CBS comedy. I did a walk-on a pilot that may not go anywhere. And I'm going to be in a movie, a background player. They call us day players.
Oh, that sounds fun.
As an upscale party goer in the 1940s. And the thing I'm excited about is the dress. I'm going to get to dress in a 1940s upscale dress.
All right. Well, more to next time, because
absolutely.
I didn't realize you had so much going on. So congratulations.
Thank you.
And I'm so proud of you. And thank you for joining me today. And I'm going to have you back, okay?
Yeah,
you promise
absolutely.
to drive back down? Okay. All right. Thank you. So I want to thank everyone in the audience today for joining us today. I'm humbled to be part of this very important conversation on gender identity, and I invite you to keep listening. You can find previous shows online and also check out my blog, which is at chicagonow.com, /gender, where I talk about all the topics on gender identity. Again, thank you for joining me, and thank you again, DonnaKelli, for being here.
Thank you so much. My pleasure.
Bye.
Bye-bye.